After round 11, Fabiano Caruana is joining us. You just drew your game with Daniil Dubov, and you're now on +5. How do you rate the tournament so far for you?
Well, it could have been a lot worse. At some point, I was really struggling, but I won 4 games in a row. And then, I went to +5. But at some point, after I lost to Keimer, and my next game after that, I was also in serious difficulties. Yeah, I thought it wasn't going well, but 4 wins in a row turned it around. Still, it's very far from Magnus's score. He's still a point ahead. I didn't want to accept the draw when Daniil offered it, but I thought my position is rather dubious, and I was surprised he offered a draw. And by the tournament situation, I have to play every game, but the position was super dubious. I thought I really didn't like my position, so I sort of felt obliged to accept his draw offer.
Okay, so you were both lucky and unlucky, so to speak, in the games. Lucky in the draw with Dubov, but unlucky to lose to Vincent, and obviously to struggle in the game after that. You mentioned those 2 games. How was it easy or difficult for you to regain yourself and kind of to get back in form and fight for the top, so to speak?
Well, I think that game after I lost to Keimer was very important because the opening was extremely bad for me in that game, which I eventually won. But after the opening, I was dead lost with the white pieces, so it was really, really looking bad. Recovering from that was a big step forward, and then I got some fortunate pairings, I think. I got a double white. I felt good today in my first game. I felt optimistic against Fedoseev, and I think I played a very good game. But it was also fortunate that I got a double white rather than playing black against Fedoseev instead, and perhaps we could talk about a different game. So some things went in my favor. Of course, that's how the tournament goes here. It's always going to be a bit up and down. Very few people remain totally consistent. Magnus is having one of those very consistent tournaments where he's also winning a lot of games. But for example, Hikaru is also avoiding losses.
We just interviewed and he said he's like struggling. He just can't find the mojo.
Yeah, he's not losing any games, but he's struggling still because you have to pick up a lot of points, and especially when Magnus is setting the pace and is on +7 out of after 10 games, 8.5 out of 10. Then it's you really have to win a lot to keep up. And overall, so far I've been having a pretty good event, but the last 2 games will decide everything.
A few players I spoke here with mentioned the factor of pairings, how that can impact your luck in the tournament. So how big of a factor are pairings, and sort of can you quantify it? Like, is it like 20%, 10%, and assuming you have good performance?
I still wouldn't say 20%. Of course, it's a Swiss, so there's an element of randomness. But I think the most important thing is that, let's say in some normal Swisses, you start off slowly and you might play some players who you can expect to collect some points against, because you might play some players who are lower than your level. But here, if you start slowly, you actually continue to play very, very strong opposition. So I talked to people, to my colleagues, and they're playing players very similar in strength to the players I'm playing, even though they have a few points less. So there's actually no benefit to starting slowly, or what we call the Swiss gambit, right? I think it's very important to at some point you have to go on a run of wins. Short of that, there's really no strategy.
And now we're just 2 rounds from the end of the tournament. And are you going to go on a run for wins? Obviously, you've been running since the very beginning, but are you going to put extra, put full pressure on yourself now to play extra strongly in the last 2 rounds?
Well, I think to fight for first, realistically, I need to win my last 2 games. Of course, 1.5 might tie with a great deal of luck, but more likely 2 out of 2, and even then, it will be probably a tie, or it's even possible to win my last 2 games and not to catch Magnus if he goes on, if he continues winning. It's unpredictable, but it's also not entirely in my hands. I'm trailing, so I can only do my best and hope that it will culminate in a tie. But again, if Magnus continues to win, then nobody can catch him at this point.
And just finally, in terms of preparing for this tournament, obviously this is the Rapid and then we have the Blitz. Are you more relaxed about this type of setting? Like, obviously this is a very important event, but are you more relaxed than compared to, let's say, a classical tournament?
Before that, I will amend my statement slightly, because I actually haven't played Magnus yet in the tournament, so I do have that chance if I play him, which is not a guarantee, of course. But if I'm paired against him, then I have a chance to equalize the score in the tournament immediately. And about the rapid and the blitz, I mean, the blitz is more relaxing for sure, as much as a tournament like this can be relaxing, just because you have more chances. If you play badly at some point, you still have many chances to return. For example, I remember last year, Fruja started extremely poorly. He was at some point on a minus score at the start of the event, and then he went on a streak of wins, and he ended up at some point tying for the lead. I think he might have even been in the clear lead at some point, although eventually Maxim Vachier-Lagrave won the tournament. But still, it shows that even when you're playing poorly, you still have a chance if you continue having some belief in your tournament. In Rapid, it's more difficult. If basically to be in first place, you need to be +7. You can't really have any moments of weakness. While in Blitz, I think it's a bit more forgiving. On the other hand, you still have to score a huge plus to tie or to get clear first.
Perfect. Fabiano Caruana, thank you so much for your time and good luck with the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.